the Western idea of entrepreneurship is about having a big business, a hero man normally who comes and solves big problems. The idea of success and value that we attach with entrepreneurship, I did not like that idea. I had chat with a lot of women entrepreneurs. For them, value is giving to their community, to the other people around them. Invisible ceilings and sticky floors that don't let us go up. They are all not giving up, showing resilience. They give me hope about the future. They make me proud of being a woman.
Welcome back to the Astana Times YouTube channel. This is your host Asel Stubaldna, and my guest in the studio tonight is Shumaila Yousafzai, a professor at Nazarbayev University whose research has focused on entrepreneurship, particularly for marginalized groups. Thank you very much, Professor Shumaila, for joining us tonight in the studio. It's a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you for inviting me.
And one of the first questions before we dive into our discussions about your research and about your works, I want to ask you, how can we cultivate an entrepreneurial mindset?
How can we cultivate entrepreneurial mindset? I think, mostly we have, entrepreneurship was a big part of this part of the world. But then we have taken Western theories of entrepreneurship that focus on entrepreneurship education, and then doing a business plan and taking a loan and then going and doing a big business. This is not how businesses used to be in this part of the world. And now all of us, we think, well, we need to get a loan, we need to do a business plan, we need to have a very brilliant business idea, and only then we can become entrepreneurs. So actually there is a theory of entrepreneurship called the Effectual theory of entrepreneurship. It's proposed by a professor called Saraswati. And she says that anybody can become entrepreneur. It's in each one of us to be entrepreneur, and you don't need a lot of money, you don't need a lot of connections or a brilliant business idea. You just start with what you have in hand, and you share your idea with others, and whoever wants to join you in this journey, you bring them in. So I think if people could just move away from thinking, I need money, I need idea, they could just start with little money and little ideas and just do something. And that's how I have traveled in many countries. I see in Thailand, for example, very entrepreneurial country. In Africa, in Uzbekistan, people are out there doing businesses on street, small businesses. It doesn't have to be a big business. So
Exactly.
That's my theory. You don't need proper business education to become an entrepreneur.
I know that you spent many years researching entrepreneurship, particularly from the lens of marginalized, disadvantaged groups. Could you share with us what made you embark on this path, and maybe what was the defining moment in your personal experience or life that brought you here?
Again, the Western idea of entrepreneurship is about having a big business, a hero man normally who comes and solves big problems, and he creates a big company, a startup, or creates lots of jobs and become a millionaire or something. The idea of success and value that we attach with entrepreneurship, I did not like that idea. So I had chat with a lot of women entrepreneurs, and I would look at them, the value that they were creating for their family, for the women around them, the refugee entrepreneurs, for example, how they come to a new country, how they create a new life for themselves. So I just started to think, what is value? We have to reevaluate the concept of value and success. And for them, value is giving to their community, to the other people around them. And that's what drew me more towards these people, because I think we need to talk about their contribution to the society. to their own families, to the culture, to the nature. They are real hero entrepreneurs. So I wanted to learn more about them. And then we always devalue them. We think they are underperformers. Actually, they have constrained performance. We don't pay attention to them. They don't have access to resources like the normal entrepreneur will have, the finance, the network, and even within the constrained resources, they do great things. So I wanted to bring their stories forward and to rethink what does value and success means for entrepreneur.
That's quite a remarkable story, and that's, you know, I hear a lot about this success focus, you know, and success is so much overrated these days that I don't think people even understand what value they put in this word. And
so what does success even mean, you know? So I have done some training workshops with refugee entrepreneurs in UK, and we would ask them, so what is success for you? And they will all, you know, they are people who have left everything behind, not enough resources. They will always say, I really want to help people. And you would always think, you know, a normal entrepreneur in a Western country is all about himself, you know, and I want to become rich, I want to make my next million, I want to buy this big house, I want to make it more businesses open. And these people would always say, I want to help. Well, what does this mean, you know? Why do you want to help? Because this is what they want to do. This is their purpose of kind of life, and this is the values that they stand for. So I just found it so fascinating. And I talked to many women entrepreneurs as well. And we will say, okay, so what's your plan now? What's the next goal? How are you going to make it bigger? And she would say, I don't want to make it any more bigger than what it is. And I would, initially I was in a different mindset. I would say, well, don't you want to be successful? And she would say, no, this is success for me. I want to focus on my family and children, at the same time give to my family and run my business as well. This is what success means to me. And I started thinking, who am I to define success for them? You know, they are proud of themselves. If they are proud of themselves, why am I undermining them and telling them, you're not doing enough, you need to do more? Because I am just bringing in another definition of success and making it a benchmark for them. So that made me really reevaluate my own biases and think about, you know, what does success means.
And working in different cultural settings and with different groups, could you share with us how do cultural norms either facilitate or hinder the entrepreneurial spirit among the groups that you were working with?
You know, like for example, you look at Scandinavian countries, the rate of entrepreneurship is quite low there. And those countries are very good for women, for example. Women entrepreneurship is very low. I think when in very developed countries where you have good maternity leaves and you have good child care policies and everything, you are not pushed towards entrepreneurship. The jobs are good for you, yeah? This is not necessity-based entrepreneurship. So they don't engage in much entrepreneurship. You go to Africa, you go to Southeast Asia, you go to Central Asia, you see women all around, yeah? They are in bazaars, they are doing cross-border trades. Yeah, they are working. They are doing they're selling food. They finish one business, then they go to another. In a day, they may be running 2-3 different businesses. I think sometimes necessity can be, you know, a reason that people become entrepreneurs. And if there are not enough good jobs provided by the state, that also pushes people towards entrepreneurship, which is not necessarily a bad thing. It's good. State cannot provide jobs for everybody, and for young people as well. In Thailand especially, I saw so many young creative people. They had this big market where they were selling all sorts of crafts and clothes and shoes and all items. Young people, they were running those places. So I think this is great, people going and being their own boss.
What was one of the stories in your research, in your work, that particularly stood out for you?
You know, when I went to Kyrgyzstan as a tourist in 2020, so I did a lot of this community-based tourism, and almost all the homestays we stayed in were owned by and run by women. And these women were amazing. I was just thinking how strong they are. They were in those gylos up in Songkul Lake, for example. There were not many men around. They were milking their cows. They were setting up the breakfast, talking to tourists, and they were properly trained for tourism as well. And then the next year I went, there was this lady called Rahima. She has a youth camp, and next year we went, so I couldn't find the youth camp, and we called Rahima, we cannot find, and I saw a 4x4 zooming through the Songkul Lake, and Rahima comes, and Rahima has bought a new kind of small truck for herself, and I was so proud of her, you know. She is a widow, she has raised her children. We're running these youth camps. She is sending her kids to universities in Bishkek now, and she's done so well for herself, for her family, and she helps so many women. And it's not just Rahima, so many of them, they help. They are so much helping each other, these women. So I felt so proud of her, seeing her coming out of her car and improving her life standards. Then we have in Kazakhstan, we did this book with Kazakh women entrepreneurs. So many stories stand out. There is a lady called Bulbul. She is from Aktau, I think. She is a Mongol. She came from Mongolia. She is a Kazakh from Mongolia, and she knows a lot of embroidery and Kazakh crafts. And she is now developed a very nice business where she is training the new generation of Kazakh children to teach them their craft. You know, she is an amazing character. Then there is one lady, I forgot her name, I'll show you her story. She is in south near Shymkent somewhere. She has 10 children. She is from a village, and she exports bamboo as a construction material to Europe. You know, she runs a big business. And she's given birth to 10 kids at the same time, and she runs this very male dominated business in construction, in eco construction material. So they are trailblazers. They are doing amazing things. At the same time, they are nurturing their families as well. So they have not lost touch with their feminine side. They're doing what nature has asked a woman to do, to take care of their families and everything, but they are also doing these amazing things.
And indeed, hearing all of those stories is no surprise for me, because I think the resilience of women, and particularly from women that I've seen in Kazakhstan and across Central Asia, is always mesmerized me. It just leaves me in awe. How can women withstand the stress, you know, from work, from this household duties, right? So and still do well, perform well. This is every time very wonderful.
So they run their shops all the day in the bazaar. They come home and they straight tuck into the kitchen and they are cooking food. When a man comes from his job, he doesn't want to speak to anybody, you know, he puts his foot up and he expects the food to be served to him. And when they come home, they just, you know, they never are tired. It's just this, God has given them this unlimited energy source. Also, there is something so special about women, is there what in the research we call it the feminine capital, is the ethics of care, because a woman is nurturing, you know, she gives birth, she brings new life, and she is the carer. So when she does a business, she cares for her employees, she cares for the customers, she cares for competitors. We had so many stories of women, you know, their competitors, they're teaching them the tricks of the trade. They're sharing their resources with them. That's not what a man would normally do. They keep things to themselves.
And why is it so? I mean,
this is the woman's nature, you know, to share and to care. This is the ethics of care that they have, and the special capital that nature has given them. And this is great, so that's why we should have more and more women entrepreneurs, because they care for earth, for the culture, for the nature around them. So you know, I just find it very fascinating.
And because you mentioned the book that you've recently published, The Trailblazers of the Steppe, could you share with us what was the motivation in the first place to sit down and write the book?
Yeah. So when you type on Google entrepreneur, and go to image search, mostly I think out of 10, 9 or 8 will be men,
Exactly.
Men and in suits, and they are, you know, people shattering stereotypes and doing great things. Okay, yeah, they are doing, but there are millions of others, you know, where are they? Why don't we see them? Why don't we hear about them? Aren't they doing great things? So I think this is what something has always bothered me. I think representation is important. Hearing about these stories matters, and in whatever capacity we can do that, we should do. So my aim was to tell stories. Storytelling is a very powerful way of changing mindsets. So we go and we talk to these women, we write their stories, and then we put them together in this book that we did on the Kyrgyz women entrepreneurs, and then we did the Trailblazers of the Steppe. We printed it in, published it in 3 languages, and then we hired a visual ethnographer because we wanted it to be not just text, but in visual format, tell their stories. And with both books, we printed them in big size images, and then we did photo exhibition in many places. In Nazarbayev University, we did few times. And one thing will always stay with me. So when one exhibition was done, and I heard some students passing by, and they were talking to each other, and they said, these are some important people. Because they thought these are the people whose stories are written there and they are photographed there, they must be important. Well, they are important. They have always been important, but it's just that we don't see them. So, and then we did a lovely book launch for this book, and I told my team, we are going to make it a big celebration. We're not just going to do a boring book launch, because this is a celebration for these women. We want to treat them like queens, you know. And we invited them from all over Kazakhstan. We gave them these sachets, and we had a good ceremony. And these women felt so happy. They felt acknowledged, because acknowledgement is one thing. As human, we all want, you know, we all are working hard towards our purpose, and we want to be acknowledged and appreciated for what we do. Yes, our family may appreciate, but we want a bigger acknowledgement, because what happens when you start acknowledging, that starts the process for legitimizing. These women make value, but the value is not legitimate. Why? Because it's not in monetary terms. It's like intangible. That's why it's not yet legitimized. So once we start acknowledging, appreciating, hopefully one day we can legitimize this intangible value in some kind of monetary terms. You know, like in Bhutan, I think they measure their GDP per capita by happiness. And in New Zealand they also started doing that, and that's a good move towards going towards things that we don't value. Happiness is a big thing, but because it's not monetary value. So so that's acknowledging, appreciating, bringing to the center these stories. And thank you for inviting me for talking about it, because your platform can then amplify these stories further now.
It is our pleasure, and it is my pleasure, of course. And talking to all these women, what do you think, what do you find common among them, and how can their stories inspire all other women?
I would think, you know, few things that I find in common. One is this care principle. From anywhere that I have met women. I've traveled quite a bit in Africa. I'm from Pakistan. I know people from India, so I know Southeast Asia. I've worked and lived in UK, Europe for a while, Turkey. I know a little bit now, 5 years here. All women face barriers. Just because we think some are in West Western, we are all facing barriers. Some more, some less. There is patriarchy everywhere. Yeah, we are fighting this everywhere. There is invisible ceilings and sticky floors that don't let us go up or don't let us go higher. They are everywhere, but they are all not giving up, showing resilience, caring for their families at the same time, for their doing their work or job or businesses, and the sense of contribution. They all feel proud of what they contribute. I have met women in Africa, small farms, having some chicken, some growing some vegetables, and they were so proud of themselves. I still remember Josephine. She said, Josephine, I met her in Namibia, and she said when she dies, she wants to leave a legacy behind. She was a farmer, a small farm holder, and she was thinking of a legacy, you know, and she believes in that. So when they believe in it, why are we kind of gaslighting them and telling them that, you know, you're not important, you're not doing enough, you need to change, you need to be more like a man. And a lot of them refuse to be like a man. You know, they refuse to, we don't need to become like a man to be successful. That's what I find very interesting. So, yeah, all these things I appreciate a lot in all these women. They give me hope about the future. They make me proud of being a woman. So I do it also for my daughters. My daughters go with me everywhere when I do these interviews, and I want them to see all these women showing so much resilience everywhere. We were recently in Tajikistan and we were interviewing women, and there was three women, they were friends, and they had a roadside tandoor where they were making this fresh bread, and they had a very nice business going in there. One was bringing the resources, one was doing there was a good partnership. They had a small tin of money, and they were one was making the bread, and they were so proud, you know, they were strong women, so proud. So being a woman is actually a pleasure, and to see them and to tell their stories, they make me proud.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And what do you think each one of us as people can do to at least try to break those barriers that you just mentioned?
I think men have a very important role to play here. They are gate openers, gatekeepers. They hold a lot of resources, contacts. So in this book that we did on Kyrgyz woman entrepreneur, 18 women, and at the end we have one man. I wanted to talk about this man. He is important. These women, all of them that we have talked to, they haven't just done it on their own. They were supporting men in their life. You know, men are not always creating barriers. They are helping women. It could be father, it could be uncle, it could be a neighbor, it could be somebody, politician in your neighborhood, somebody. There are always these characters. We need more of them. We need more of them to come and to be cheerleaders, because they are sitting in places where women are not. These are the places where decisions are being made, resources are distributed, and we don't have much say over there. So if they could speak on behalf of these women, if they could open more doors, if they could bring in more resources, if they can bring their stories and problems forward and be, you know, helpful and more cheerleaders, not to be afraid of these women. Because men normally, you know, they become afraid. They think if she becomes more powerful, successful, she has money, she would not listen to me. How would I make her obey me? It's not like that. We have seen women in Uzbekistan where patriarchy is quite strong, but women have this kind of unspoken respect for men. They respect this patriarchy. They know that this is part of their culture. So they operate within that. Still they are strong and they are successful. Man is the leader of the house. That's fine for them. They don't need to become the leader, and they work under him. But still, so men don't need to be threatened by strong women. So yeah, I think men have a big role to play. And those women in power of positions, unfortunately, a lot of times women, when they reach power of position, they don't help women. It could be many reasons, because they have been bruised to reach that position. They have faced a lot of discrimination, and they just don't like associating with their own gender. And then they just help men more than women. So I think it's important, those women who reach power of position, they remember that they have a now duty of care towards all those who are behind them.
Now I would like to focus more on specific context in Kazakhstan, and as all countries well aware, Kazakhstan has a unique cultural landscape. And how do you think this cultural setting influenced the way Kazakh women approach to business and entrepreneurship?
Yeah, well, it's a very interesting question. Now I have traveled across many countries in Central Asia. I think Kazakh women is the most empowered among the whole Central Asian countries I have been to, financially, education wise, in terms of being out, and having more kind of rights. So I think you are in a good position to move forward, and also because you were kind of more nomads than Uzbekistan, so nomad culture give more empowerment to women, compared to settled cultures where there are specific gender roles. So I think that gives more empowerment to women as well. And recently we are doing a book on bringing back the national heritage, the businesses. Most of the businesses, not deliberately we have chosen, are women. Yeah, they are playing a big part in this bringing up the Kazakh heritage and bringing it with a modern twist in food, in fashion, in jewelry, in clothing, in restaurants, many different kinds of businesses, eco businesses, felting, and these women are playing a big role. Then we have done a book we are about to complete on eco businesses. Again, so many women are in eco businesses, and they are solving a lot of social problems through their businesses. So I think they are innovative, they are creative, they are not afraid, they are going forward, they are strong. So I'm very kind of proud of being part of Kazakhstan, because I think they're doing great things.
I know that researching many times usually has the potential to have implications for policy changes, for maybe decisions at the higher level. And what do you think are some of the critical changes that needed here in Kazakhstan to contribute to create a more inclusive entrepreneurial ecosystem?
I would say there are certain hubs in Kazakhstan where there is more entrepreneurship, like Almaty and Shymkent. So there is a lot of resources available to women entrepreneurs there in the south. I would say spreading it over now to and taking these success stories and good practices that have worked with women entrepreneurs there, and taking them to the other parts of Kazakhstan to help them now to replicate those business models or business practices that has helped these women create a very thriving ecosystem for themselves. Like in Almaty and Turkestan and Shymkent, they're doing really great. I think that would be a good thing to go and help women in outside those hubs.
And you mentioned that women in Kazakhstan are most empowered if we look at Central Asia, but still we can see a lot of barriers here. Despite the financial, educational empowerment, women still face glass ceiling, a sticky floor. The homicide rates are quite high if we compare it to countries, to our neighboring countries. And still, it gives hope on the one hand, but on the other hand, it's sometimes it's tiring to maintain that hope in the future, where women and all the other marginalized groups are equally represented and their voices are equally heard.
Yeah, this is the story of womankind from the beginning. Yeah, it has been, I don't know, at least the last few hundred thousand years. So I mean, everywhere women face in the West as well. The domestic violence rate in UK is quite high. You would think it's a European country, especially after COVID. It has increased quite a lot. And at workplace they face discrimination. I think the good thing would be to bring in legislations, like we have the Sultanate law now. So hopefully, you know, there are legislations which has repercussions. If you engage in discriminatory practices in workplace, like women go and want to have a loan from the bank, there are some discriminatory practices that favor men over women, like the capital requirement or document requirement or collateral or all these things which men have more, or they have more networks and resources. So legally trying to remove those barriers so that these discriminatory practices are not institutionalized. Yeah, at least we can remove them at the institutional level. We cannot remove them from the minds of people, but at least we can create some infrastructure, some laws, some systems where they are not institutionally marginalized. And if they face, there is a recourse where they can go and complain. Yeah, like now with the Sultanate law, they can go and and the man can face consequences. Yeah, so if they are discriminated against over something, they face some kind of barriers, they go and complain in some place. So they have a justice system. So I think that could be a good way to move forward.
And one question that I'm wondering now, how does academia define, and how would you define the phrase marginalized group? Because we were talking now about women, and I know that you have worked quite a lot with other marginalized groups, but could you tell us what's the definition of what is marginalized group?
Yeah, so we have one group that hold resources and power. Yeah, it's mainly in the world, if you think. It's West and it's men and white men, yeah? So if you think like this, let's start from the bigger one. Everyone else is marginalized, yeah, in the world. And then it's to think, you know, who is holding more access to power and resources? And then not all women are marginalized, yeah? Some have education and power and resources, but then most of them are. Young people to some extent are marginalized, disabled people are, they don't have equal access to the same opportunities or resources because they are not the norm. What we see the norm, everything else is marginalized, yeah. It could be geographic locations as well. Some geographies in Kazakhstan are marginalized compared to the other, because the resources don't make their way there. Power is in one area, yeah. So I think power and resources, I would say access to them, everybody else is just struggling for it. And then among them, some have bigger struggles, some have less struggles. They are all making struggles. Disabled entrepreneurship is another thing that is, I have made a new grant application now, because in Kazakhstan, like in all other post-Soviet countries, disability is a taboo. I think it's only recently that you have stopped calling disabled people invalid. Yeah, invalid is like you're just invalid. They would like to go to an office, make an application if there was a ramp there. If I am correct, a big percentage of buildings in Kazakhstan do not have ramps. Yeah, they have stairs to go up. So that's it. You have closed the doors to these people. How can they even go there? How can they get into a bus? Yeah, I think buses do not have ramps for the wheelchair to come up. These people, you don't even see them. I don't see them, people in wheelchair or with white sticks. They are just somewhere living in their houses. So I think this is another group that really so this makes, you know, when the marginalization become double or triple fold, not just your gender, not just your social class, your ability status as well stops you from moving forward. So I hope that, I hope that I would be able to get a new grant, and I would like to work with disabled people. You have amazing disabled entrepreneurs actually who are doing great work.
From the books that you've written and you've published, what would be the key lessons that entrepreneurs can take out from them?
Oh, okay, it's very cliche, but never give up. Yeah, don't give up. It's okay. Barriers will come. You just have to grit. You know, grit has been proven to be more important than any other thing. Money is not important. Being clever is not so important. Having a degree from a very good university is not. People who have grit move forward in life. These are the people who don't give up. So I think a great perseverance, and in my own career as a woman, I have faced barriers, and there are people who try to stop me, and I have one principle: I don't pay attention to them, because if I start paying attention to these people who are trying to stop me, I'll just stop. I'll waste my energy, my emotions on them, and I'm empowering them to ignore and just to focus on what you are doing and show from your work what you are made of. And that's the best reply you can give to these people who are creating barriers for you. So I think that's my lesson from the women I have met and from my own experience.
Thank you very much, Professor Shumaila, for this insightful conversation. That's a wrap on my questions.
Okay, thank you.